Nobody told me there was a new SpongeBob movie coming out. That's the weird thing about I find with streaming services nowadays, because like back in the day, jingle jingle, back in the day when a movie came out, it was like, most likely it was going to be in theaters. Boom, commercials, whatever, they're going to pop up, or you get the advertisement in the theater, and that's how you knew a movie come up. You see a poster, billboard, whatever. Nowadays, it's like I hear a movie. Oh, did you hear that? Like this movie that you really love is making a sequel, and you didn't know about it because it's on like Tubi, Freebie, ABCD streaming service, right? So that's always a weird thing nowadays. But I don't even remember how I discovered this new SpongeBob movie. I think I turned on Netflix for the first time in like 6 months. I was watching Cobra Kai, which that's a whole other beast to talk about, but moving on, and I saw the little thing, and I'm like, oh, that's coming up in like a few days. And what? SpongeBob goes to Galveston? Why in the hell would SpongeBob go to Galveston? That doesn't make any sense. As a person who I frequently visited many Texas beaches back in my youth, Galveston would be the last beach I would go to. Although he doesn't tend to go to the beach, but I mean, I would pick something like, South Padre or Port Aransas or whatever. Galveston would be the last beach I would frequently visit. Sorry out there for Galveston's fans. I remember Charles Barkley make fun of y'all already. I don't need to be doing it anymore. Anyways, yeehaw. So, new SpongeBob movie, right? It's more of a Sandy Cheeks movie. The premise of the movie is that, it's also, so this is something I was talking about the other day with a friend. And so there's four, from my knowledge, there's four SpongeBob movies. The OG, the Sponge Out of Water, and then there's the one where they go to Atlantis. I know that. And then this one. So the last two were in the new 3D animation. And if I'm correct, the last two, the last one where they go to Atlantis and Matt Berry is the king, right? That one, I believe that was made to introduce Camp Coral. Is that what it's called? I keep calling it Camp Krusty for some reason. Is that it? I don't remember. Anyways, I believe that movie was made to introduce that TV show. And so we always talk about how that's considered the new timeline for SpongeBob, which is the 3D animated timeline. So to sit there and say that, I don't know if that's true or not, but I consider that a new timeline. But regardless, because like Sandy's in like, whatever, it doesn't matter. Basically though, the premise of this movie is Bikini Bottom gets stolen by this giant crane. And then Sandy and SpongeBob together find out that it is going to a lab in Galveston, Texas, which is a lab that Sandy worked for. So you learn why Sandy has been in the tree dome underwater for all these years, which I don't know if that was ever discussed in any SpongeBob. Like most people, you stop watching after like maybe season 4. I mean, I've seen a couple of the new ones, but I don't got time for that anymore, unfortunately. And then also, not to sound too old, but SpongeBob died for me many years ago. R.I.P. Steven. But so that's the premise. So they go on this adventure to find Bikini Bottom because it got stolen. So you often wonder, why was Bikini Bottom even stolen in the first place? Well, fast forward to, the villains of the story. Good old these two scientific henchmen who Sandy used to work for now work for a Miss Wanda Sykes. And I was like, at first I looked at her and I was like, is that who I think it is? Wanda Sykes looking good though for her age, I can say that much. But so yeah, stole Bikini Bottom. We'll get to why she did. Anyways, so they go on this adventure to try to find the missing Bikini Bottom, which there are a couple little things here and there. They're like like SpongeBob's out of the water, but Sandy is able to hydrate him with some cactus water and a spray that she invented. So if you're wondering how that happens, you can nip that in the butt right then and there. They fix that problem. They get so they're flying. So that also you find out that Sandy is a flying squirrel. You find that out too, which didn't even know that. She's a sugar glider. So they get on. They geyser themselves onto a plane. They jump off the plane. Sandy flying squirrels it with SpongeBob on her back. They're getting closer to Galveston, and then they get sucked back in by a twister because, we're in Texas, y'all. There's got to be twisters, of course, your tater twisters from the State Fair of Texas, big Tex, baby. So, yeah, that happens. They get stuck in the desert. They have to walk the rest of the Galveston. They get jumped by a couple of snakes, Rattlesnake Jake from Ringo, which learned that Johnny Knoxville voices Randy is who he voices, who's Sandy's brother. Which I was like, why does he sound so familiar and so got that twang a little bit there? And it's good old Johnny Knoxville from yours truly, Jackass. Anyways, so yeah, you find out Sandy has a family, and she came from a family of squirrels who were in a circus. So that's kind of fun. You know, the mom, the dad, two little kids, the brother, and Grams. There are a couple moments where they're like, "We want you to come back to the circus," but then we're like, but she's like, "No, I'm a scientist now, Ma," and like, you can do whatever you want as long as it's in Texas. And there was a brief moment where you're like, "Are they really trying to gaslight her to come back home?" But in the end, they're just like, "We love you and do what you want. Save your fans. We'll help you save your fans." And then there's a car chase because Randy is peddling drugs. He's not peddling drugs, but to me, it's like the kid version of alluding to that. So anyways, fast forward to back to the scientist who stole Bikini Bottom, right? We get some moments where Bikini Bottom's in this glass dome in this lab, which is kind of funny. There's some funny moments in there because if I'm being honest with you, the only character, because this is more of a Sandy movie and I can kind of see why, the only character who I felt had any depth was Sandy, and maybe some of her brother kind of had some depth. The rest of the characters I felt were just there to make the gag and jokes, which is kind of, I guess, what I haven't watched newer Spongebob, but I can tell you from what I remember watching towards the end of it all that Spongebob has definitely, has changed a lot. He's more of a caricature of who he once was, because I was talking about the first SpongeBob movie when I was comparing this to it, and how like each SpongeBob movie like devolved each time to be kind of just this weird wackiness or whatever, and just how great the first SpongeBob movie was, and how there was this arc and journey. Every character I felt had somewhat of a role to play for the most part, but this one I just felt like the other characters were there just to make jokes, which, I got a couple giggles, right? Some funny things that Patrick or Mr. Krabs or Squidward said, just to, I felt like most of the people, voice actors there were just there for the paycheck, and I don't like to use the word cash grab lightly, but I felt that slightly. At the end of the day, like, I guess I'm not the target audience. I've been saying that about kids' movies, but I remember being the target audience for SpongeBob, and I remember being a little more in depth, even though it was silly. Regardless, there were some funny jokes. So you learned that Wanda Sykes wants to market Bikini Bottom. She had a whole tragic backstory where she loves sea creatures and she just wanted to squeeze and cuddle them. There's a scene where they kind of like edit her adult head on a child's body, and she like steals an animal from like an aquarium or something and tries to cuddle it, and then it dies on her. And that's her villain origin story. So she wants to market and she knows about Bikini Bottom because of what Sandy has done all her research. So that's when you get the Sandy lore that like, oh, Sandy has been spying on Bikini Bottom for all these years. And this is when I'm going to get a little more in depth about the movie. So trajectory of the movie is that's the premise, right? And this is where I don't know if they meant to do this, but the message I got from this movie, and this is kind of what I'm making up, is what I took from it. The horrors of scientific creation, that you can have this, I'm a scientist and I want to do this research because I believe I'm doing good, right? It's like what Einstein and like Oppenheimer during like World War II, when they were like, look, if we don't make this bomb, the Nazis are, and then it could be the end for us. So we make this bomb first, and then, watching Oppenheimer, when the bomb goes boom, that's when you see like millions of years of like evolution just flash before your eyes, and all the horror you just created, that face that Oppenheimer makes, like, I have become death, destroyer of worlds, And so that's the take I got. Like, scientists, like, I'm going to try to do this good, but then there's someone out there who wants to take your research, who's funding your research, and just wants to, like, I kind of want to do evil with it. And so that was what I that was my deeper message with this movie. I don't know if Nickelodeon meant to do that, but that's what I took from it. I mean, Sandy's like, I think I'm doing this research on ocean creatures. Turns out I'm doing research for this evil lady who wants to like steal these creatures, market them, and clone them and sell them for, profit, which in a way is kind of already what Nickelodeon is doing already with SpongeBob. So maybe they're just talking about themselves. Anyways, so that's the premise of the movie. And there's a phase to it. They were like, we're gonna like gene splice them so they're compliant, they can breathe out of the water. Phase 2 is we clone them, and then like phase 3 is we package and ship them out, I guess. There's a point where they're trying to lure the fish out of the bowl, and it's like raining pellets, and I believe one of the fish goes like, it's raining phase 1s, and I actually thought that joke was a little corny and funny. But also I felt they could have done more with Plankton. There was a little part where he's like, I want to like get more in this lab and like do evil stuff, and I think they could have done more with that. I missed like Plankton just being, I love Plankton's evil schemes. One of my favorite parts of like SpongeBob, just the evil schemes of Plankton. They show Plankton like twice, and that's it. I wanted more of that. He's one of my favorite characters. I love his dynamic with his computer wife. She's amazing. She's a real She's a real 10 out of 10, you know, or a binary code for that is just 1 0 1 and whatever. Anyways, who cares? And then, you know, in the end, Sandy's like, I can't believe I helped fund this project. I feel so bad and I feel so sad, you know, and I betrayed my friends, right? And then in the end, you know, SpongeBob motivates her. She gets her head in the game, and then her and her family, they save everybody, and then it's all happy. And, you know, part where they're flying in space because they launched out of the lab. Wanda Sykes has a fish that she turns into. She also kissed it at one point. She has a pug as well. That's another funny thing is when they eventually get back to Galveston, it's like a water park. After this police chase where they're flying through tornadoes and, you know, because like I said, we're in Texas, right? You know, Texas Twisters, right? That's a thing. Launches them into the park. They get chased by this pug. And there's a part where they jump off this water slide and Sandy, you know, she's a flying squirrel now. And it's like, we got away from the pug. And then the pug's chasing them on like a little paraglider. I thought that was a little stupid funny. I'm a sucker for a little bit like, oh, okay, that does make no sense, but that's stupid funny. They got me there with that one. Then they escape in the sewers and the dog still somehow chases them to the sewer. Anyways, like I said, they save the day, get back to Bikini Bottom, put it back where it belongs. And yeah, it's all fine and dandy. The family circus comes to town in Bikini Bottom and gives them a nice proper show. Mr. Krabs is selling Texas-sized Krabby Patty. It's a happy ending, and then we get a rendition of the SpongeBob theme song. But it's like Sandy, like who lives in a tree under the sea? Sandy Cheeks, right? And that was the whole movie. Was it great? Out of all the SpongeBob movies that came out, I rank it at the last, personally. In fact, if I had to rank every SpongeBob movie, not that anybody asked, but it's literally the trajectory. Each movie was not as great as the other. Not to say that I can't have fun watching it. You know, I like SpongeBob. I love some of the dorky little things that were said. Patrick said some fun things. Squidward got a musical number, but then they cut him off, which I was upset about. I'm like, you cut off my man Roger Bumpass? Why'd you do that? I want to hear Squidward sing. I love Squidward. One of my favorite characters, you know, right? He's a classic. It was funny that they called SpongeBob Cheese Boy, which is something that my mother used to call SpongeBob when I was younger. It's like, why does he look like cheese? You know, Cheese Bob or whatever. That sounds like a mom thing to say. And so that made me laugh a whole lot. So why am I talking about the SpongeBob movie? Because I just watched it and I had to talk about it with somebody. I just can't believe SpongeBob went to Galveston. And to me, that concept is really funny. But I guess this is technically a Sandy Cheeks movie. So yeehaw, Texas, right? Sandy Cheeks movie, I give it a 3 Bucky Beavers out of 6 Big Texas. Yeah, that's what I give it. There hasn't been any good movies coming out lately. I was going to talk about Borderlands, but after seeing the Rotten Tomato 0%, I don't think we're going to review that one. Anyways, I think that's all I have to say. Juice out.